saying to the NFL players who are protesting, calling them SOBs, is just a little frustrating, because this movement is about, taking care of not only, everyone and stuff like that, but specifically letting people know our lives matter, at the same time. We're not saying no one else's. We're just not saying just black people or just white people. It's just like, understand that we're here too. We bleed the same color as you.
Yeah. What does it feel like to hear, as an African American, what does it feel like to hear all lives matter? Because I think that's like the white people kind of refrain to that sometimes.
I mean, it can be frustrating. Because I think what tends to happen a lot of the times is it's one of those moments where we should have to basically put ourselves in their shoes, but you're never trying to come put yourself in our shoes. So it's one of those things where you want to get them to realize that the things that we're going through literally on a daily basis, we have to look over our shoulders. And so we want you to realize that and understand our lives matter just as much as yours. So when we're having to walk out this door, get in our cars, you can bet 9 times out of 10, we're the first ones that are going to get pulled out of a situation before you are, and looked at before you are. So we're just saying one of those things where we need to also be inclusive and understand that the trials and tribulations as African Americans deal with in this country every day, you need to back us up, basically, because at the end of the day, we're all we got.
Yeah. And I think I think what frustrates me, I actually heard a really great analogy recently, after a lot of like the hurricanes and stuff, where someone said like all states matter. And that was kind of what they were like going. And it's like, okay, well, that's true, but right now, like Texas, Louisiana, like Puerto Rico, like those are the states that we need to focus on, because those are the ones most in need, right? So no one's saying that California doesn't matter. No one's saying that white people don't matter. It's Black lives are the focus of this, because this is where the spotlight needs to be right now, and this is where we need the most improvement.
Yes, exactly. 10 times agree with you on this, because it can be really frustrating and really crazy just seeing how things are misconception or perception can be, and how there's no there's no compassion right now in the world, and it's just a little crazy the way things are. And unfortunately, I think things are just going backwards rather than going forwards within our country. And
I think part of that is that it's hard to know what to focus on, because there's so much, like, especially if you look at like the presidency, and there's so much corruption just in that realm, that it's like, oh my gosh, like we almost forgot about Black Lives Matter because our president is starting a nuclear war. You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard to remember, or just to know, like, okay, what should we be focused on Tuesday?
No, it's really crazy. It's literally every other day there's some different story going on to cover up something else bigger, that's going on. And it's just like, this movement in general is about all Black lives. Basically, they embrace everybody from trans to queer, to gay, straight, like everybody. They embrace it, and they're just basically looking to make sure that our rights are held to the same high standards as everyone else.
Yeah.
So I don't see why that's a bad thing. The same thing as women getting the right to vote. We had to fight for that right, and we're still, to this day, fighting for our rights. And so we just want to be held to the same standards as men, when you really think about it. So it just comes down to everyone being treated the same.
I think it's interesting because we live in Los Angeles, and so of course there are racial divides all over the world, and even in large cities, but living in a culturally diverse city like Los Angeles, or some metropolitan area, I think that I don't give a second thought to race. Like when I pass someone on the street, I don't see color. And I think I'm fortunate because, again, I live in a big city. I'm exposed to a ton of cultural diversity, and so I don't know. That's just not something I personally think about. But
I agree.
That's not the case all over the place. You know what I mean? Especially in like smaller towns.
Which is the sad part about it. We're very, very, lucky being in LA and everything, but I do worry about my brother who's in Kentucky. I worry about my cousin who's in Arizona because it's very, very strict. The laws out in Arizona and everything. And, I do also, with the Black Lives Movement, it kind of branch off to a different subject, just the incarceration of our African American women and men.
Yeah.
And it's just also that institution is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. I mean,
but,
statistically, it's disgusting, actually.
It really is. It just blows my mind the way things are. And, it just shows you, how the laws that they're trying to create right now is just even going to make it even worse. And, I really, really highly tell everyone, please go out and vote and educate yourselves on what's going on in our community and the people that you're voting for. Because at the end of the day, you may think, oh, it doesn't happen in my neighborhood, but it's happening in someone's neighborhood, and at the end of the day, it's going to end up coming back around to someone that you know. And we really need to just keep an eye out on what's going on. And I mean, I have family still in Tennessee and I worry about them. And it's just overall, just our society really needs to wake up, to what's going on. And, I'm really, really hoping that, my little piece, my little film, it's on YouTube. Hopefully, it's doing really well right now. It's have like 500 views, and hopefully it'll keep building and, get that conversation started and hopefully inspire other people, women and men, to, want to do projects and just speak about how they can make a change as well.
Yeah, and I love that you've mentioned a couple of things already in terms of like voting and knowing who you're voting for and what their agenda is. Obviously, you're out there, trying to put positive stuff out into the entertainment industry. What are some other things as a society that we can do to start to not start because it has begun, but to continue to push the conversation forward to help bridge some of the racial divides in this country that still exist?
I think we can, like I said, first you have to start with the dialogue. And I think after that, you have to, get within your community. I think it starts with your community. It starts with your family, your friends, that support system, to want to make a change in your neighborhoods. And then also it kind of grow off of that, like I said, going into your local, centers and public schools and trying to figure out how they are, teaching our kids, because I think education is another part of that piece, and just making sure that we are here for our kids and our youth and just informing them and inspiring them to want to do better, and just taking it to the next level and just paying attention. Like I said, I think if you don't pay attention and you just sit in the back and just be like, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me. Yeah. I think that's a little foolish, and a little naive. Because like I said, at the end of the day, we all are different races, and that's what makes this, like I said, the melting pot in a great country. But at the same time, we all bleed the same color, and you should want to care about your fellow human being. I may not, have the same amount of money as you or live in a fancy house as you, but I care about you and your family and, and what's going on in your neighborhoods and, making sure, you have a roof over your head and you have the bills paid, and I can do that as a citizen. I can help by voting, at the end of the day, making sure, we're staying on top of, making sure we have clean water. Hello, Flint, right now, totally. Still 3 or 4 years later, just making an impact, in society. And even if it's the smallest thing, going to the local library, reading up, educating yourselves. Just doing little things can make a bigger difference, at the end of the day. But I just think just speaking up is the first thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Do you think that the progress that has been made is significant, or do you think we still have a really long way to go?
I think it's made a little bit of a movement. I think after, having 8 years of President Obama, which I still miss him every day, I still consider him my president.
Same.
I think he made very major strides for us as a society, with a lot of the laws that he passed. But I think that at the same time, with the new person in charge, I think we've kind of gone back. I think he's reversed a lot of those laws. So I think people need to really pay attention because, like I said, just because they passed certain bills, like they passed the couple bills that affects the LGBT community. It doesn't directly affect me because, I'm not in that world, in that, knowing how they feel. But I have friends, who are in that society, who are in that world, and I want to make sure they're taken care of. And so just staying on top of that and knowing that those little things, it will affect you somehow, some way. And I think we need to just really look at what they're really doing and not just go by face value or just go by what someone is telling you. No, educate yourself. Look at what's really going on, and don't just blindly sign away on anything or just automatically vote on anything and not really know what's going on. Because things are going to – it's gotten bad on certain – every other day, honestly, I'm seeing something or tweeting about something because they've passed some law or rolled back our rights, specifically women's rights. Yeah. The frustrating thing with the gun laws and everything and how they don't want, to do anything about the gun laws, the Second Amendment rights and stuff like that. And no one's saying take away anybody's guns. But at the same time, me as a woman, you should not have the right to tell me what to do with my body, excuse me, and taking away birth control pills and stuff like that. So, yeah, it may not affect you, Shawn, the birth control pills, but at the same time, you have friends who are women who it will affect. So just knowing and educating yourself on that and, women having the right to vote and decide what to do with their bodies, that should want to be something that affects you and affects your friends, and you want to speak up about that and just stand on top of that stuff and look into that stuff. I think is the biggest overall message I can tell any and everybody. One thing may not affect you, but it can affect 10 other people.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree with that. What are some arguments, going back to like Black Lives Matter movement for a moment, what are some arguments that you've heard against it that might bother or frustrate you, and how can you put those arguments in context for people who maybe don't understand or might be ignorant?
I think some of the arguments is basically that there's like no leadership. There's leadership within the Black Lives movement. They have different chapters over, within the country and stuff like that. I think other arguments is, that they hate police officers. That's not true at all. Basically, it's about, like I said, holding people accountable and to a high standard. And they just want, police officers that are trained and who are doing things the right way and not just automatically just shooting to kill. I think also that it hate white people. That's not true. I think when I heard that, it was just insane to me. Yeah. It's not anti-white because as you've seen the marches, it's so many colors and so many people. It's Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing. And to throw that out there is just like insane and just wrong on so many levels. It's just those little, negative type of things to stir up the pot and to basically be anti this or anti that. It can be a little disheartening at times, but I think overall the message of the movement is just basically about showcasing that the African American community lives matter just as much as everyone else's lives matter. That's all the message that they're trying to send out.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned before that you're starting to receive some attention on the short film. What kind of attention have you received? What's the response been like so far?
Yeah. The response has been very, very positive, which I'm really happy about. Everybody's seen it. My friends and family, they loved it and, helped promote it and spread the message. And even strangers, I've been, it's really funny because I'm slowly getting into this social media world, and I was very lax with it. You were the one that actually helped me set up my Instagram, because at first I didn't know what Instagram was.
Oh my God, that was years ago.
Yes.
And you never used it. It took you years to start using it.
Yeah. Yes, it took me forever to start using it. I started out with maybe 20 to 30 followers, and it was just my family. And now, looking at it, I have 500 followers. And I'm like, oh my God, are you crazy? Do you guys know I am not that important of a person? But I have these followers, and people are noticing the short film from it. And I post a lot of, the festivals that I've been submitted to. And I post that, and I post any little projects that I'm working on. And my biggest message that I post, is helping hopefully to inspire other people to want to do different things in entertainment or just be creative.